Hey there, it's Mitzi. Welcome to my channel. Today I wanted to share an update on what I've been reading in July. So this is a mid-month wrap-up because, well, half the month is already over. And I can't believe that so much time has passed before I have shared a reading update. I try to share a reading update every few books, but time got away because I had other videos I wanted to post, and so I haven't shared an update. And so I have a good stack of books here, and I'll try to go through these as quick as I can. I also made a couple of notes that I have here on my clipboard to try to keep me focused so that I don't chase rabbits during this video. So these are the books that I have read so far during the month of July. I do have several readathons and challenges that I'll try to remember to mention that some of these are prompts for. So the first book that I finished was called Savannah by Eugenia Price, and this was a find at a Little Free Library. I had found the first one at a Little Free Library, and then I went and searched this one out to read this. And so thank you to the generous person who donated the second book, because I think I bought this one and I found the second one. I can't remember. But the generous person who donated the book to the Little Free Library so that I could try this out. The cover of the book just looked like something that I would enjoy. So this is the first in what one of you told me is a quartet. I didn't know if it was just a duology because I didn't know I had the second book in this series, but this is in fact there are 4 books in this series. So Savannah is the first one. This one was published in 1983, and as I was reading this, I thought it reminded me a lot of Gone with the Wind, but I thought that this was Scarlett and Rhett's nicer neighbors, I guess I would say, because if you've ever read Gone with the Wind, you know that they're just horrible. They're horrible people that make some really bad choices in that book. Now, I'm not knocking Gone with the Wind because it's a masterpiece, and if you've never read it, wow, you need to read it. But they are just not nice people, and they do some really bad things in Gone with the Wind. So this is the same type of story. It's an epic drama. Now this is set in 1812, and it runs through, let's see, the 1820s, and it follows the life of a man named Mark Browning, and he meets the McKays, and Mr. McKay takes him home with him, and he sort of takes him under his wing, more of a father-son figure, and the wife and the children, they just become his adopted family, and it is just a really great relationship that he builds with the McKays as he moves to Savannah in search of some answers about his own past. And it's just a great book. It was really a page turner. If you like Gone with the Wind type books, now again it's set in 1812, but it still has that feel. It's at the beginning stages of the development of the city of Savannah, Georgia, and I like that too because Eugenia Price shared a lot of people that were real people. I think the McKay man that she talks about here, I think he was a real person. There are several architects that she mentions, and different buildings that are being built during this time that are in fact really places that you can go to in Savannah, Georgia. So I found that to be interesting because I don't live that far from Savannah. And so now I want to go back just to find some of these landmarks in Savannah, Georgia. So I found that to be interesting. I highly recommend it. I thought it was a great read. But again, it is, like I was trying to say about Gone with the Wind, it's a lot like Gone with the Wind and the drama part of it. But this family and the people in it, there's a lot more, and of course there's villains, but there are the main characters, there's a lot more forgiveness. I mean, that's the main theme throughout, is forgiveness and mercy and grace. So I did like that about it, and I do look forward to picking up the next one. I have number 2 on my shelf, and it's called To See Your Face Again. And I think it just continues following the people from this book, so I can't wait to try it. Let me know if you've read this quartet, or if you've read anything by Eugenia Price, because this was my first one, and I am excited to try more from this author. So this is a good one, and I highly recommend this one. Oh, and I was going to say too that I read this for Summer Book Bingo at Beautiful Minutia. She is posting this whole summer-long readathon that she hosts every year, and it's called Summer Book Bingo, and you have a bingo card, and on the bingo card one of the prompts was over 500 pages, and this is almost 700 pages, so it will work for that. And I also read this for my first read for Big Book Summer. Sue Jackson is hosting the Big Book Summer Challenge, and so that takes care of that too. So this is my first big book of summer, and I was excited to get this one read because I've had it for a while and I wanted to get to it. So I did want to mention that it did fulfill a couple of prompts, challenges that I'm working on this summer. The next one I read is called The Riddle of the Lonely House by Augusta Seaman. This was published in 1935, and the original title was The Strange Pettingill Puzzle, but my copy is The Riddle of the Lonely House, and it was an updated version that came out a little bit later through the Scholastic Book Fair. But on it, it says right here that it was 35 cents. So I was like, wow, I wish I could get my books for 35 cents. So anyway, this one, oh, and thank you to whoever mentioned this author. I was talking about a Phyllis Whitney, the middle grade mysteries that I love reading by Phyllis Whitney. And one of you mentioned, well, you should try this Augusta Seaman because that's the kind of books this author writes as well. So I looked the author up and I found this cheap copy on eBay, and I thought, I'm going to try it because I loved the cover. So thank you to whoever mentioned this, because yes, this has my name written all over it. These are the type of books I devoured when I was a young girl. I mean, I love these. They're just cute little mysteries that are fun, little, kids my age that were running around solving mysteries. And so I devoured these when I was a young girl. So thank you so much for telling me about this author, because I'm going to be on the lookout for more of these. But this particular one, also was great for summer. I meant to mention that too. This was a great summer read because the boy and girl, it's a brother and sister, their family has rented this little cottage by the sea. And it starts out, they're on their little summer vacation, and the boy and girl, the sister and brother, take a rowboat out crabbing. And on their little adventure, on the first day of their summer vacation, they meet a little boy, and his name is Pettingill. I wrote his name down. What was his name? Alan Pettingill. And when they meet him, they're interested in Alan, first of all, because he's their age and, hang out with the kids in the neighborhood kind of thing. But also because Alan and his mother live in a houseboat that's not on the water, it's on land. But, it was interesting that they lived in this houseboat. So they get to talking to Alan, and there is this mansion in the, back in the wooded area, and it's abandoned. And so there are clues around this old house that they go into. So of course I loved all of that. Any old house, yes, you have me at that. You have me at that, and secrets in this house. And also, if you follow my channel, you know how much I am a bird watcher and how much I love birds. Well, all through this little book, peppered through it, are some just little tidbits about flycatchers, and just a little bird knowledge that is peppered through this. And the bird plays a part in solving this so-called riddle in this story. So I loved that about it too. It's a great, fun summer read. I highly recommend it for a middle grader who loves mysteries, and I highly recommend it for an adult who enjoyed these kind of books too. It was a fun read, and I'm so glad that I picked this one up. The next book I finished was Sense and Sensibility by Jane Austen. This is a reread for me. I always participate in Jane Austen July, and this was the group read for Jane Austen July this year. This was published in 1811. Let me make sure. Yep, 1811, and it's fantastic. I love Jane Austen. This one is about the Dashwood sisters. It centers around Eleanor and Marianne Dashwood. And Marianne is a romantic, and she's all about romance, and she believes that you should just live this passionate life full of poetry. And then we have Eleanor, who is the opposite. She's more practical, and she's a little more reserved. Well, a lot more reserved than Mary Ann. And it follows the girls and their family as the mother and the three sisters move to a new house, and they meet new suitors. So that is what this book is about. That's the premise of the story. And it's just wonderful because it's Jane Austen. There's one thing that I did notice as I was rereading this. I don't know what it is about Jane Austen. Let me know if you're a Jane Austen fan as well. The more I read her books, the more I fall in love with the stories for different reasons. And so reading this again, I don't know, I fell in love with it a totally different way. It's almost like when I read her works, there's another layer that I discover when I'm reading them. And it happens every time I reread Jane Austen. So let me know in the comments if you know what I'm talking about, if you've read Jane Austen, because there's just something that I think, when I first started reading her books, I struggled at the beginning. I mean, this has been years in the making, but when I first, a long time ago, picked up Pride and Prejudice, I found it to be dry. And I was like, I don't understand why this is so dry and has become so popular, because, I watched one of the adaptations. But then, years later, I tried again, and I fell in love with it, and I couldn't put it down, and it was like I understood her better. And then when I picked up another, I understood her better. So then when I went back to Pride and Prejudice, I saw different things that I didn't see before, and it's like I'm almost, I don't know, I understand her wit and where she's going in her stories now that I didn't understand when I first tried her years ago. So let me know in the comments if that makes any sense to you, if you're a Jane Austen fan, because I do find that as I reread these books, I just fall in love with them more and more, and they become more and more of a comfort read for me. Now, I will say too that this past week I started the movie adaptation that I love of this, that stars Emma Thompson and Kate Winslet. I love that adaptation of Sense and Sensibility. I highly recommend it if you are looking for a movie adaptation. It's a great one. I haven't finished it because I just kind of put movies in and watch a little bit, and then I go back to it. But I do love it, and I've watched it many times, and highly recommend the book as well as that movie adaptation. Next, I read The Lady and the Highwayman by Sarah M. Eden. This was published in 2019, so this is a newer release for me. This was my pick for the TBR spin. Every month I am spinning the wheel to get some of the books read off of my shelf, and this was a gifted book, and so I wanted to get this one read. This was fun. This is part of, what is the name of it? The Dread Penny Society. So this is number 1 in a series. I think there are 5 in the series, and it's called the Dread Penny Society, playing on penny dreadfuls of the Victorian period, because it does take place in the Victorian period. It is historical fiction. It was fantastic. I really enjoyed this little book. This follows a young woman who she's like the head mistress of a girls' school, but she also writes on the side, and she meets this other writer, Fletcher. And Fletcher is a very popular penny dreadful writer. So he's become popular because he writes all these penny dreadfuls. But what's happened is there is this new writer, this mysterious writer, who has kind of taken his audience away. He's kind of outdoing him on the penny dreadfuls, and so he's trying to find out more about who this other author is. And so it's a lot like Charles Dickens. So I enjoyed that about it, of course, because I'm a big Dickens fan, I'm a big penny dreadfuls fan, and I'm a big Victorian, of course, fan too. What I loved about this, though, was there's 2 storylines. And one of the storylines is about what I just mentioned, that plot. But there's also this penny dreadful that is being played out in the story too. And it made it just a hoot. It made it so much fun for me. I loved that they used the whole penny dreadful theme throughout and told this other little story, this exaggerated sensational novel through the whole thing. And so I love that about it. This again is number 1 in I think 5 books. And it's called, what did I say? The Dread Penny Society. I want to call it Penny Dreadful Society, but it's the Dread Penny Society. And it was a lot of, if you enjoy historical fiction set in the Victorian period, you do like a nod to the Penny Dreadful kind of things, you might enjoy this because it had that little, that thread of a story pulled all the way through it, and so I did enjoy this one too. So next I read The Heart's Charge by Karen Whitmire. This is the second in the Hangsman Horseman series. Number 2, I think there are 3. I'm pretty sure this is a trilogy, and I will pick up the next one. I love the first one. This follows this group of, they're called the Hangers Horsemen, and they're like these guys that are on horses, and they, save the day pretty much. It's just these strong men on horses, these tough guys, and they go save the day in all of these situations. So this is the second one, and it follows 2 of the members of this group, and it's, what are their names? Mark and Jonah. And there is a storyline for Mark and there's a storyline for Jonah, so I loved that about it. This takes place in Texas in 1894. It starts the spring of 1894. And it's a romance. It's a historical Christian romance. And I loved every minute of it. And I did love the first one. I do love Karen Whitmire and the way she tells the story. But I loved this one. This is my favorite so far. This was so great. A 5-star read for me. And I will definitely be picking up the next one because I loved this book. But it follows Mark and Jonah, and they meet up with some ladies who run Harmony's House, which is a home for orphaned children. So what was so wonderful about this one was the Harmony House, the ladies that ran the Harmony House, because in this one we have the 2 men who are these strong, brave characters who are, tough guys on these horses, and they, are fulfilling their purpose to protect and serve. But we also have these 2 strong women as well who, of course, this is a romance, but they are strong in their own right, and they are fulfilling their purpose to protect and nurture these children at Harmony House. And so I just loved that dynamic. I loved the children and the descriptions of the children too, because a lot of times in these stories, there will be this, subplot or something of, okay, we're, running this orphanage or something, and children will pop up, but they're really not developed. Of the children in this Harmony House, they play a big part in the story, and so those characters are developed as well, and so I did like that about it too. Again, 5-star read. I loved it. I can't wait to pick up the next one. I read this for Jeanette over at Jane Read. She has a Christian fiction readathon that takes place all year long, and the prompt was a hot setting, and she had recommended this. She is the reason I started this series to begin with, and I love it. So thank you to Jeanette for recommending this series a long time ago. And so I did pick up the second because she said it's a hot setting, so I could use that to fulfill that prompt. I also used this for the Summer Book Bingo hosted by Beautiful Minutia, because one of the prompts was friendship and found family. And so I didn't know it would fulfill that, but as I read it, I realized this is a great example. If you do enjoy strong friendship, found family type books, this one is a great example for that. So yes, highly recommend it. I can't wait to pick up number 3. And then finally I read Password to Larkspur Lane. This is number 10, the Nancy Drew, and this is our final book for the Let's Read Nancy read along, and I'm so glad that it was such a great one because it ended our group on such a high note. I highly recommend Larkspur Lane. This was so good. I loved it. There's carrier pigeons and secret messages and passwords. There are jewels that are stolen. And then there's a twist halfway through it that I didn't see coming. There was something going on, and I didn't realize that's what was really happening in this story that made it so tense that by the middle of this, I had to just keep reading to finish it because I was, I don't know, chomping at the bit to find out how this was going to end. So I loved this one. Thank you to all who participated in my Let's Read Nancy read along as well. We had such a great time, and I will continue Nancy, but I'm going to take a break for a little while. And I had the first 10, so that's why I went to 10. And as I collect them, I'll keep reading. But thank you again to all that participated, and this was a great one. You don't have to read them in order, so if you just want to try one, I highly recommend Password to Larkspur Lane. So those are the books that I have been reading over the last couple of weeks. Have you read any of these? Let me know. Let me know if you're participating in any of these reading challenges too. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon.